I never thought I'd see my own sister try to destroy me on my wedding day. But there she was, standing in the middle of the reception hall, her voice cutting through the music and laughter like a knife. "Do you really want to marry someone who's lying to you?" The music screeched to a halt, and every head turned toward her. My groom's face went pale, his champagne glass frozen in his hand. I felt my stomach twist into knots, my skin crawling as whispers spread through the crowd. I had begged her not to make a scene. She promised she'd behave, swore she just wanted me to be happy. But now, she was dragging my deepest secret into the spotlight in front of our entire family and all our friends. My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear her next words. But when I did, my world tilted. "She's not who she says she is." The room buzzed with confusion, people whispering, some even pulling out their phones like they were about to film the entire meltdown. My groom, Daniel, turned to me, his jaw tight, his eyes demanding answers. "What is she talking about?" he asked, his voice low but shaking with anger. I tried to breathe, but it felt like there was no air left in the room. My sister's eyes were locked on me, dark and full of rage. "You think you can build a marriage on lies? You didn't tell him about your past, did you?" My hands trembled as I clutched my dress, the fabric wrinkling under my grip. "This isn't the time," I muttered, praying she'd back down, that she'd realize what she was doing. But instead she laughed bitterly. "Oh, this is exactly the time. Because if he says I do without knowing the truth, then he's marrying a stranger." Daniel stepped closer to me, his face pale, his voice sharp. "What truth? What is she talking about?" The room had gone completely silent except for the pounding of my heart. My sister folded her arms, her voice dripping with venom. "She's not some innocent bride. She's hiding something, something that would change the way you see her forever. And I'm done keeping her secret." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My bridesmaids stood frozen near the edge of the dance floor, their faces caught between horror and sympathy. My mother looked like she might faint, clutching at my father's arm for balance. And me? I wanted the ground to swallow me whole, because I knew what was coming, and once the words left her mouth, nothing would ever be the same again. My sister took a deep breath, clearly savoring the silence like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. "You all think she's perfect," she began, her voice steady, "but she's not. She's been lying to all of you, and especially to Daniel. You deserve to know the truth before you tie yourself to her forever." Daniel's grip on my arm tightened, not painfully, but with desperation. His eyes searched mine, begging for an explanation, but my throat was dry. I wanted to scream at my sister to shut up, but I was frozen, trapped in my own nightmare. People in the crowd leaned forward, waiting for the bomb to drop. I could almost hear their thoughts. What could be so terrible? What was she hiding? "Why now?" And then my sister said it, loud, clear, final. She used to be engaged to his brother. A collective gasp rippled across the reception hall. Daniel's face went slack, the blood draining from his cheeks. "What?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. I shook my head quickly, tears springing to my eyes. "It's not what you think, Daniel, please." But my sister's voice cut through mine like shattered glass. "Not what he thinks. You were engaged to his brother. You wore his ring, you lived with him, you were practically family already. And you were just going to sweep that under the rug like it never happened." My mother covered her mouth with both hands, her eyes wide with shock. Guests were whispering furiously, some even pulling out their phones to text, record, maybe even post online. The humiliation burned through me, hotter than any flame. And Daniel just stared at me, betrayed, his lips parting like he didn't even recognize the woman in front of him anymore. "I was going to tell you," I blurted out, my voice cracking. My mascara was already running, my chest heaving as I fought for air. "I swear I was going to, but it wasn't like that. It ended years ago. It meant nothing compared to what we have." Daniel shook his head slowly, his eyes glassy with disbelief. "You were engaged to my brother, and you thought that didn't matter." My sister smirked, victorious. "She knew it mattered. That's why she kept it hidden. She's been lying from the start." I stumbled back, my veil slipping off, my hands trembling as I tried to reach for him. "Daniel, please, I love you." I didn't want our relationship to be tainted by something that's ancient history. But judging by the look in his eyes, hurt, betrayed, cold, I realized my sister had gotten exactly what she wanted. She'd planted the seed of doubt, and now it was spreading like wildfire. Daniel staggered back a step, running a hand through his hair as though he could physically shake the words out of his head. His groomsmen hovered behind him, whispering, unsure whether to intervene or just watch the disaster unfold. My father finally stood, his voice booming across the hall. "Enough. This is not the place." But his tone was useless against the wildfire my sister had started. Guests were already filming, and the DJ looked like he wanted to vanish into the floor. Daniel's mother, my future mother-in-law, rose slowly from her chair, her face pale. "Is this true?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Were you with my other son?" The air left my lungs in one painful rush. I couldn't bring myself to meet her eyes. And that silence, my silence, was the answer she didn't want but had already feared. The room seemed to tilt as whispers filled the void I'd left. My sister folded her arms, triumph flickering in her eyes, but beneath it I saw something else. Bitterness, envy. She wanted this wedding destroyed because she couldn't stand to see me happy. "I loved him once," I finally admitted, my voice barely audible. "Yes, I was engaged to him, but it was a mistake. We were wrong for each other and it ended badly. I never looked back." Daniel's mother sank back into her chair like my words had physically struck her. Daniel himself looked like he'd been hollowed out, his shoulders sagging. And then my sister twisted the knife deeper. "Oh, you never looked back. Then why did he call you the night before he died?" The words dropped like a guillotine. The entire hall gasped in unison, a sound so sharp it felt like glass breaking. My vision blurred as I whipped my head toward her. "You don't know what you're talking about," I shouted, but my voice cracked, betraying me. Daniel's face snapped back to me, his eyes wide with a new, sharper suspicion. "He called you," his voice was low, dangerous. "The night he died." My stomach churned, bile rising in my throat. My sister's smile widened, venom dripping from every word. "Tell him, sis. Tell him what his brother said before the accident." Or should I? The room spun. My wedding day had become a courtroom, my sister the prosecutor, my family the jury. And the truth, the one I'd buried deep, was clawing its way to the surface. I felt every eye in the room burning into me, demanding an answer I wasn't ready to give. My hands were ice cold, but sweat trickled down my back under the heavy fabric of my dress. "It wasn't like that," I whispered, shaking my head violently. "You're twisting everything." Daniel's voice sharpened. "Then tell me, what did he say?" His jaw was clenched so tight I thought his teeth might break. My sister leaned against the table with a smirk, savoring the carnage she'd unleashed. "Go on. Tell them how he begged you to take him back. How he couldn't stop loving you, even when you moved on to his own brother." Gasps echoed again. Daniel staggered as if he'd been punched, his eyes glassy. And in that moment I realized she wasn't just exposing my past. She was rewriting it, twisting it into something poisonous. "No," I screamed, my voice raw. "That's not true. He didn't ask me to take him back. He called me because he was drunk, because he was spiraling, because he didn't want to be alone." I tried to calm him down, but he hung up before I could say anything that mattered. My chest heaved as tears blurred my vision. I carried that guilt for years. I thought maybe if I'd said the right words, he wouldn't have gotten in that car. But I never cheated, Daniel. I never betrayed you. The hall had gone silent again, every guest clinging to my words, waiting to see if Daniel believed me. My mother sobbed quietly into her napkin, while his mother stared at me like I was some stranger who had wandered into her son's life under false pretenses. And my sister, she just tilted her head, her eyes glinting with malicious satisfaction, as if she'd finally dragged me down to her level. Daniel's voice broke as he spoke. "So you were the last person to talk to him before he died?" His words weren't a question, they were a verdict. I stepped forward, desperate, clutching at his sleeve. "Please, you have to understand. I didn't tell you because I didn't want this pain to follow us into our marriage. I wasn't hiding betrayal, I was hiding my guilt." But he pulled his arm away, his face hardening with every second. "You should have told me. From the start, all of it." My sister's smile widened, her work complete. She'd set the fire, and now she was watching it consume everything I loved. And I knew, whether or not Daniel believed me, our wedding would never recover from this moment. The room had descended into chaos, guests whispering, some openly arguing about whether I was the villain or the victim. My father was yelling at my sister to leave, but she stood her ground, arms folded, soaking in the spectacle she had created. Daniel's best man whispered something in his ear, but Daniel brushed him off. His eyes locked on me like I was the only person in the room. His gaze was cold, unfamiliar, and it broke something inside me. "Did you love him?" Daniel asked suddenly, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. My knees nearly buckled. I wanted to scream no to erase the doubt from his mind, but the truth was heavier than I expected. "Once," I whispered. "A long time ago, but not anymore. Not since you." The honesty in my words felt like stripping myself bare in front of hundreds. But instead of relief, the silence that followed was suffocating. Daniel's mother shot to her feet, her face contorted in fury. "This wedding is a disgrace," she snapped. "How dare you stand there in white, pretending to be pure when you've dragged both my sons into this mess?" My own mother tried to intervene, stepping forward with trembling hands. "Please, this isn't fair. She made mistakes, but she loves Daniel." "Enough!" Daniel's mother's voice was like thunder, shutting her down instantly. She turned to her son, her tone softening but no less commanding. "We can leave right now. You don't have to go through with this." The words hit me like a death sentence. Guests started murmuring louder, shifting in their seats, some already assuming the wedding was over. My bouquet slipped from my hands and hit the floor with a dull thud. Daniel looked at me, torn between love and betrayal, between the life we'd planned and the past I'd buried. His hands shook as he rubbed his temples, his whole body radiating conflict. I reached out to him again, my voice breaking. "Please, don't let her win. Don't let her destroy what we've built. Yes, I should have told you. I was wrong. But everything I've ever felt for you, it's real. It's the only thing that's ever been real." For a split second, I saw something soften in his eyes, a flicker of the man who had promised to love me forever. But then he looked past me, at my sister, still smirking, at his mother, glaring with disapproval, at the crowd of judgmental faces. And that flicker died. Daniel's silence was louder than any scream. My heart pounded as I searched his face for some sign, some sliver of hope, but all I saw was the weight of betrayal pressing down on him. Finally, he spoke, his voice hoarse. "I don't know if I can do this." The room erupted again, my father shouting, my mother sobbing, my aunt gasping like she was in a soap opera. My sister's smirk stretched wider, and I swear I saw the satisfaction gleaming in her eyes. She had wanted this all along, to ruin me, to break me. I staggered forward, clutching at Daniel's hand, but he pulled it away as though my touch burned him. My knees hit the floor, my dress pooling around me, and I didn't even care about the gasps that followed. "Please," I whispered, my voice raw, "don't walk away from me." But then my sister stepped closer, her voice dripping with venom. "You see, Daniel, she's nothing but a liar. She doesn't deserve you or this wedding. She fooled everyone, but not anymore." That was it. Something inside me snapped. I rose to my feet, trembling but fueled by pure rage. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" I spat, my voice echoing across the hall. "You couldn't stand that it was my day, not yours. You wanted the spotlight, even if it meant destroying me." The crowd gasped again, but this time the whispers weren't just about me. They were about her. About how bitter she sounded, how jealous. For the first time, the attention shifted. Her face twisted, but before she could speak, Daniel finally shouted, his voice cracking. "Enough, both of you." The hall went dead silent. Daniel's chest heaved as he looked between us, me, broken and desperate, and my sister, seething with triumph. His jaw clenched as he wiped a hand over his face, like he was trying to erase the entire night. Then slowly he turned to the officiant, who stood frozen with the little book still in his hands. Daniel's voice was flat, lifeless. "I can't do this right now." It was like the floor collapsed beneath me. A murmur of shock rippled through the guests, followed by the scraping of chairs as people began to stand. My mother rushed to me, but I pushed her away, my eyes locked on Daniel. He wouldn't even look back at me. And in that moment, surrounded by shattered glass hearts and the wreckage of what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, I realized my sister hadn't just ruined my wedding. She had destroyed my future. Guests began filing out, their whispers buzzing in my ears like a swarm of wasps. Some avoided my eyes, others stared with open pity, and a few shook their heads like they'd just witnessed a scandal too juicy to forget. My perfect fairy tale had turned into public humiliation. I ripped off my veil, my chest heaving. My father was shouting at my sister now, his face red with fury. "Do you realize what you've done? You've ruined your sister's life." But she didn't look ashamed. She didn't even flinch. She just stood there with her arms crossed, her chin tilted up, like she'd won a battle no one else understood. And maybe in her mind she had. Daniel disappeared into the crowd, his best man following behind him. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't even give me one last look. And that hurt more than any words my sister had thrown at me. The reception hall emptied quickly, leaving behind half-eaten plates, overturned chairs, and the echoes of what was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. I stood in the wreckage, my dress heavy, my heart shattered, my future uncertain. My mother tried to comfort me, but I couldn't hear her words. My ears were ringing, my vision blurry. All I could see was my sister's cold smile, carved into my memory like a scar. That night, lying in my childhood bedroom, I realized something brutal. I hadn't just lost my wedding. I'd lost the man I loved, my in-laws' respect, and maybe even my place in my own family. And the worst part, my sister didn't ruin me by accident. She ruined me because she wanted to.